What's up, everybody? This is Mind Your Money with Miss Be Hopeful, a show that highlights people and stories that will help you get your money right. And today I am so excited because I have one of my, honestly, oldest friends at this point in my life. I feel like this is crazy that I went to high school with Tiffany Mellard. She is an amazing artist and performer, and I'm so happy to have you, Tiff. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Anelli.
Yes, I'm so excited. Actually, I need to get this intro right, because not only are you an artist and performer, but you just got this Harvard degree, honey. So you need to do the proper intro for people who don't know you already, Tiff.
Yes, well, thank you. I'm so honored to be here. So like Yaneli said, we went to high school together, LaGuardia High School, but going even further back, I was born and raised in the Bronx. Been dancing my entire life, made a career out of it. After I graduated from LaGuardia, I went to Florida State, got my BFA in dance, and then pursued a professional career in um, dance and musical theater. And I've performed in the shows West Side Story, Chicago the Musical, Memphis, and most recently Hamilton, an American musical. And as soon as the pandemic came along, I decided to take a quick pivot into graduate school, and I just graduated with my degree in my master's in education from Harvard University, and it's an arts and education master's degree.
Ooh, honey, master's in education from Harvard. First of all, that is an incredible pivot. It's so funny that people talk about all the negative things that happened in the pandemic and how much, struggle there was and confusion and like loss of income and loss of just inspiration and hope and all these things. But every time I scroll on Instagram, I see your story, and every time I link up with you, I'm just like, this is one of those the diamond in the rough, the story where it's like, yes, there was a lot of negativity. We're not going to ignore that. We're not going to sugarcoat that or try to sweep it under the rug. But when you find a way to make it through that adversity and pivot into something positive, it's so beautiful. And I think your story is the perfect example of that. So I really wanted to highlight you and just share that. So we're going to get to the Harvard part of the story and decide, because that's a big decision to just pause your life. I mean, kind of the pandemic kind of decided to pause our lives for us, right. but you made the best of that. So we're going to get to that. But I always like to start my show with two really fun money questions, because the show focuses a lot on money themes and topics about money that people just don't be trying to talk about because they're a little bit ashamed or money is so taboo. So I try to just make it approachable and just a conversation that, hey, we should not feel like that. We should be talking about money. But one of the things that I like to do to get that negative money, shameful feeling out the way is just put that regret, that biggest money regret out there in the open, off the bat. So what is one thing that you think of when somebody says that your biggest money regret so far in your life, that you wish you could go back in time and take it back, undo it, never make that mistake again and not spend money that way? What would it be?
I immediately thought of touring. I did not do a good job of saving while I was on tour. And my first tour was an international tour of West Side Story. And
yes, I
was very green. Only 20, I was 23, 24 at the time. And I was like, oh, I'm getting paid to travel the world. Great. I'll just have all this euro and pounds, and I'll just spend it and go shopping with it rather than saving and just thinking about the value of the pound and the euro and then bringing it back to the US. And I could have accumulated so much wealth at the time if I had invested, and I just didn't. I was just young and naive, and I thought, oh yeah, the money will continue flowing. But after that, I didn't book a job for almost a year. So when I came back to New York, I had to be on unemployment for a bit, and then I found a bunch of little freelance jobs here and there. But if I had that cushion from tour, I would have been much better off long term.
Yeah.
So
girl, I love that honesty, honey. I'm loving this transparency and honesty right up front. That's a great reflection. It's tough too, because I feel like when you're 22, 23 years old, first of all, it's your first paid job that's a real job in what you want to do. So the first time you're making real money, that in and of itself gets to our head. Like, we never seen this kind of money, so it's like, oh, I'm paid now, I made it, I
Right.
have my big break.
Exactly.
And that gets, psychologically messes with you. But then in your case, it's also the actual math of the money. Like, we don't learn about conversions between euros and between pesos and between dollars and between pounds. We do not learn. I mean, it's a shame, but
Yeah.
our school system does not prepare us to transact with money in different countries or to use other countries' metric systems or whatever it might be. We're so American centric, like we're so nationalistic in our school system that you're not prepared when you graduate college to really deal with international opportunities unless you studied international relations specifically, which you
Right.
can't do if you're trying to be a performer.
Exactly.
So where were you performing, like in Europe and in the UK?
So we started rehearsals in Essen, Germany. Then our first stop on tour was Naples, Italy. Then we went to Montpellier in
Wow.
France, Monte Carlo, Luxembourg, Antwerp, Ghent, London for 6 weeks. So that was so much fun. We went to Salzburg, Austria, so like where the Sound of Music was created. We went to Roubaix, France, Brest, France. I took many vacations. This is where I spent my money. We had a week off, so I went to Barcelona. So
I
worth
love
it.
Barcelona. Oh, I
And
love
also
Barcelona.
went on a mini vacation to Milan, which was nice. So that was the benefits of being in Europe. You can just travel wherever really
Yeah,
quickly.
girl. The
Also,
train will get you there in 30, 40 minutes.
yep. Also went to Frankfurt, Munich, Zurich. Uh, yeah, a whole bunch of places. So,
I
Tel
mean,
Aviv. Also went to
wow.
Tel Aviv. So it
Girl,
was an
that's incredible.
incredible experience. Great introduction into musical theater. Very like unconventional, but it was amazing.
That is amazing. I mean, not only to be in a piece like the West Side Story, but really to be able to do it in these parts of the world that like most people just never get to travel, especially people who grew up in the hood like us, girl. I mean,
Okay.
hello. And some of
Right.
those places are like Monte Carlo is like the richest of the rich. So
Yep.
for you to be plucked out of the Bronx and shipped off to Monte Carlo to perform, I mean, and then I could just imagine being 23 and like having the mindset of like, it's, abundance. The money is, I'm
Yes,
abundant.
exactly.
I can spend, I can spend, I can spend, right?
Right. Lavish, living lavish.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's crazy. All right. So, what about on the flip side? What's a time
Mhm.
where you feel like this is a money moment that I'm always going to be proud of? Like the money spent was well spent, and it doesn't matter if somebody else might not think that. But for me, that money was well spent, and I'm proud of spending it that way. I would never regret it.
Honestly, I would say um, this past year, going back to school.
Mm,
At first, I was like, oh, do I really want to commit to this financially? But I think the payoff is so worth it. Just the network that I've built, honestly, just having that on my resume, the skills that I've accumulated over the year. Um, yeah, it's an investment for sure. And I definitely think it'll pay off long term with regard to the goals that I have set for myself post performance career. So I'm really excited to see how I can utilize all the knowledge that I've received over the year. And I think it was such a great investment to go back to school.
yeah, it's definitely a hard choice too, especially during a pandemic because it's not going to be like quite the same. But I love that you made this point, which was the term that you use, post performance. I think a lot of young people, they don't think about their future self, like when they can't perform anymore, when their body ain't the same, when the
Yeah.
gigs aren't booking the way they used to. That's like, to them, it's like so inconceivable. It's so out of their mind that they don't prepare or plan for it or think ahead about it. And so I love that you said, well, I'm already thinking about my post-performance career. What is that part of my life going to look like? And what can I do right now to prepare myself to be good, to be set up well when that does come. And like, I mean, that's to me the whole kind of theme about being smart about money early on, is because one day you're going to get to the point where you don't want to
Mhm.
be working, you don't want to like be working yourself to death to the point where, you know, you're somebody's grandma and you still have to report to work every day. Because, and even if you don't want to, because you have to, you should be reporting to work because you want to, not because you have to. And so I think it's that same mindset, right, of preparing for your future self. In your case, your future self is like, you know, post performance. So I just think that
Yeah.
that's such a smart mindset that you have already off the bat.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
it's tough to think
It
that
is.
far ahead.
Yeah. And it's like you don't want to think that far because you want to think that you can dance forever, right? But I was like, listen, I'm in my 30s. Like I gotta keep it real with myself. Like I've been doing this for a long time. There's lots of wear and tear.
Mhm.
So how am I positioning myself? Who are the people that I'm surrounding myself with that are not only performers, but are people who are passionate about the arts in a
Yes.
different way? So yeah, I don't think I could have used this year in a better way for myself. Um,
I love that. That's self-development, girl. Take the dark times and turn them into something productive, which is so easy to say, right? It's like, oh yeah, so inspiring, but to do it is so hard. So I think, you know, your story is one of like taking action, which I love, love, love. Okay, so tell us about how did Hamilton happen? Because you started with West Side Story. I mean, you've been dancing forever. I got to tell y'all, when I was in high school, I remember, and Kiana, my best friend Kiana, who Tiff knows as well, could
I
totally
can.
attest. Kiki could totally attest to this. Me and Key would go up to, because at LaGuardia there's like all these floors. There's, you know, 8 floors, and we would, art was usually on the 7th floor, but we would go up one flight between classes to go on the 8th floor where the dance majors were, just to like be in the hallway peeking in. Because we like, if we could change majors, if we could like create a talent we didn't have and switch talents, both of us were obsessed with dance. We would have totally give up our drawing skills and our art skills to be able to dance. Like we were just mesmerized, and Tiff was always spot on. I'll never forget the senior showcase. Your piece was like,
Thank
my jaw was on the
you.
floor, tears were in my eyes. I'm like, yo, Tiff is literally the definition of talent. Like you're use your body in ways it's just like I feel what you feel when you're dancing. You're such an incredibly talented dancer, and I feel like I just knew you were going to be big. You were going to take dance so far. And then one day I scroll on Instagram and I see I'm in Hamilton. I'm like, of course Tiff is in Hamilton. Duh. Like that is a no-brainer. But you know, I'm sure to a lot of people it looks like, oh, it was just like overnight success, you know, like, wow, Tiff was dancing and then she's in Hamilton, of
Mhm.
course, but it's such a process. I mean, I'm sure you will never forget the day that went down where you got the news and everything, but I know that there was more of the process to being cast in Hamilton. But tell us that story, because I know a lot of people want to hear this.
Yeah. So it's funny enough, when I first heard that Hamilton was a thing, this was back in like 2015 and they were first having auditions. I read the breakdown, like the description of the show, and I was like, this sounds like whack. And you know, us from New York, like we just like dead it like immediately. Like, what is this? Like a hip hop musical about the founding fathers? Like, who will watch that?
Oh,
Wow,
that's so
unbeknownst to me,
funny.
it would be one of the biggest shows of all time.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it was my karma because I auditioned for the show maybe like 4 times,
Yeah.
got cut first round, got cut first round,
Mm.
3 times, got cut first round. I made it to the second round once, got cut afterwards. And I was like, oh, like this choreography really fits my body. Like I love it. Like I watch the show and I'm like, okay, okay, I'm obsessed. All right, you got me.
Yes. Yes.
um, like I want to be in this, and I want to play the bullet. Like her role is super dope. Like that's me right there. So after a while, I got over it because I was like, okay, maybe I'm not meant to be in the show. It's fine. Then my agent's like, hey Tiffany, we have an appointment for you to audition for Hamilton. I'm like, I'm gonna go, whatever. Like, so I go first round. They asked me to stay. I'm like, okay. Second round, they asked me to stay. I'm like, oh, all right. Then they asked me to sing. I'm like, okay, we get somewhere, get somewhere. Go back home. The agent's like, hey, you have a call back. And I'm like, oh, okay. singing callback. Then I had a session with the music director, and I'm like, oh wow, all right. Then I go up to a final callback, and that's being filmed for the entire creative team, including Lynn himself.
Wow.
So
Lord.
I do
Ooh.
that. It's like 10 in the morning on in Times Square. I felt really, really good about it. I was like, that was the best thing that I could have ever done. Like I
Wow.
like, and the thing was, like, I feel at that point, because I had been cut from the show so many times, I was like, I have nothing to lose. The worst thing they can tell me is
Yes.
no,
Mm,
and I'm just gonna be my best self. I'm not going to like, this is not the end all be all.
right.
So I just went in there, did my thing, um, and then I waited and I waited. It felt like I waited for 2 years. It was probably only like 2 to 3 weeks that I waited.
Dang,
Um,
that's a long time though.
yeah,
Oh,
it is for a job like this, like because you
I'd have been
literally
going
waiting for your
crazy.
future. So,
Yes.
um, I'll never forget August 15th, 2018. Uh, I got a phone call from my agent, and she was like, "Hey, Tiffany, so I have some news for you. You're going to Puerto Rico." I'm like, "What?
Puerto
Puerto Rico?
Rico.
What are you talking?" She was like, "Yeah, you're going to be playing the bullet in Hamilton in Puerto Rico with Lin Manuel Miranda." And I was like, "Wait, what?" So I didn't know anything at this point. I was like, "Wait, so Hamilton's playing in Puerto Rico and Lin is going to be in it?" It's like, "Yeah, he's reprising his role." I was like, "Wow, I've been living under a rock because I didn't know any of this." But I was like, "You dead ass?" Like I literally said that.
For
Like,
real. For real.
and she was like, yeah, yes, you are, like, you got the offer." And
Wow.
I just could not believe it, because I was actually on my way to the post office to mail her a check from a commercial I just did. So I had to like pay my commission. And
Yeah.
I did not have a lot of money in my account at that point. So to find out that I was going to have this job, this, we call it like a government job, um, on
Like good
Broadway.
money.
So yeah, and it's so stable. The show's
Yeah.
not going anywhere for a while. So to go from that to this, I was just like, oh my God, thank you, Lord. Like
Mm, mm.
exactly what I needed, like right on time. And yeah, the rest was history. Started rehearsals November 2018, went to Puerto Rico January 2019. We got to perform on the Jimmy Fallon show, which was really cool. Um, and
And the
then
Grammys, right? Was it the Grammys?
no, 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 our cast did not. So we
Oh.
were the Puerto Rico and San Francisco cast. The original cast, I think, performed in the Grammys and the Tonys.
Oh, yes,
And
yes,
then
yes. They did at the
um,
Tonys. You're right.
yeah, and then going to March 2020, and we'd finished our matinee March 11th, and this COVID thing was happening. We were like, "What is this?
What's this
Like,
mean?
what is all of this?" Like everybody was real scary on stage. Like, don't cough on me because I don't know what's going on. Then the governor of California, Governor Newsom, was like, "Everything done, shut down." Company manager was like, "You guys have to pack your things and leave the theater." So I wasn't able to pack everything. I still have things in the theater, which
Oh
I
my Lord.
leave soon. But yeah, and then that was it. So it was a very abrupt ending to my Hamilton journey, but to be continued.
Definitely to be continued
Yeah,
because y'all have a lot of shows that people were ready to like show up and
yeah,
watch, and then the shows just got postponed, canceled, what have you. So there are people out there just waiting for the day for the theater to open back up.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, it's not over, but it's so nuts because most a normal average everyday person would be like, yeah, I left my stuff at my desk, my office closed. Like, girl, no, the theater has her personal belongings all the way out in San
yes. And I will
Francisco, like
say, Nelly, that we
crazy.
are reopening. I don't know if you
Yes,
saw it. Yeah,
I did.
August 10th in San Francisco. So if you're listening to this, come through, and we'll be on tour for a year. So all on the West Coast.
That is amazing. Oh my Lord. I feel like so I went to San Francisco a lot last year pre-COVID. So not 2020, but 2019, 2018 and 2019, I was back and forth a lot between San Francisco and New York because of my role as the director for educational outreach at this nonprofit that's based in Palo Alto in right out near SF. But I, obviously live in the city. So I'm like going back and forth a lot. And then I'm like, wait, Tiff is out here. I gotta hit her up. So we linked up, we hung out. I got to see the show with Tiff in it, not once, but twice.
Nice.
Like,
Yes.
oh my Lord. I took my boyfriend to see it. I took a friend to see it. I told everybody at my job, like, yo, if y'all need tickets, my friend Tiff got the hookup. She's the bullet. Okay. Just let me know. We can hook it up. My coworkers went to see it. Like, and I just feel like going and actually seeing the show. And then right after we went out for drinks, so we had this really good talk about the way that it's kind of like your story too, about your experience with West Side Story, but the way that you transition into this creative profession, it can be, like a rough transition, because at first you're like a starving artist, you're really just chasing your passion, you're doing all this creative work and it brings you so much joy, but like, let's be real, joy don't pay the bills. And so, but then all of a sudden you're freaking casting Hamilton and you're making good money. And especially if you're, one of like the principal cast members, like then we're talking about people that are really bringing in the money. And yet you feel like from one day to the next, like, again, money comes in, you also have this level of notoriety because now people know you. Now they're waiting outside the theater to get your signature. Now they are, following you on Instagram and the followers are coming in droves. And all of this, again, the psychology, right? Like it starts to get into your head, like, and mess with your head and put this pressure on you to feel like you're in this place and you have to match that level of that place. Wear the certain type of clothes to show that's where you are in your life, maybe drive a certain type of car or live in a certain type of apartment to show that this is where I am at in my life, even if you're not actually at that place. Like financially, you might have some things that you need to put in order, but the pressure makes you, like this happened to me in college. Like I was out here with these credit cards trying to look like I was like everybody else when I knew everybody knew I was not. And so I think that definitely happens. And, I would not call this imposter syndrome because that's not what it is. It's just coming into a role, a new like part of your life, but trying to get all the benefits and rewards of that phase of your life without being prepared for that phase. Like you were kind of like fast tracked to that place, and you have to do all this work before you can, get the fruits of your labor. But instead, people go straight for the fruits without, pre-planning, pre-preparing. So can you talk about that a little bit? Because you saw it firsthand. And I mean, you don't need to throw anybody under the bus or anything. You need to name names or anything like that. But I think in any of your experiences, all the way from West Side Story, going way back to that, all the way up to Hamilton, seeing this, I guess like this phenomenon kind of play out where you have these young creative people go from nothing to something and then ball out of control because of the pressure. So talk about that.
Yeah, I was definitely one of those people. Like I said, when I was at West Side Story,
Yeah.
Mondays was our dark day, so we'd be off from work. And I can think of London, for instance. I would go shopping every Monday. For what? I don't know. I don't have any of those clothes anymore. Maybe like one pair,
Same.
maybe a shirt. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but it, just thinking about all the money that I spent, and it's like, well, like if I'm in the theater every day, why am I buying more clothes right now? Like, does it make sense? And even going up to Hamilton, and I think because I knew that I was like comfortable financially, I was like, oh, okay, I can treat myself to more things. But then it just like I just went more and more and more to the point where I was like, oh, I'll do. Granted, I do justify some of the things that I did because a lot of it was taking care of my body. So like I had a spa membership, and
Right.
then I would get my nails and toes done every 3 weeks. So that was a lot. That was a push, but I was like, I deserve it. So I was trying to justify everything. But
Yeah.
as soon as I got home after the pandemic, that humbled me a lot.
Mm. Mm.
Um, because I was went from paying like $2,600 to $2,700 for a small studio in San Francisco to moving back in with my parents. Best decision I made financially. At first I was
Yes.
like, oh, but I was just living in my own place. I have money saved. I can just get a a little spot in Tampa near my parents. I don't have, so I can like have a sense of independence, and I don't have. No, my parents were like, come home, save your money, okay, so that you can buy later on. I was like,
Yes.
okay, cool. So I came home. I canceled a bunch of subscriptions that I had. I mean, I don't watch TV anyway. I don't know why I had HBO Max, Hulu, Amazon, like all of that stuff. And
All of them.
as soon as I became a student, all of my accounts were student accounts.
Honey,
I was like,
yes.
I am not going to be paying top dollar for these memberships like Apple Music, like, and it adds up. Like you see the difference in your
Yes.
spending. So I just learned so much, and like the only expenses that I have really are like my phone bill and like car insurance, and then student loans, of course. But that in comparison to how much I was spending before, like all of those maintenance things that I was doing to my
Right.
body. Like I no longer do it. I don't need it. And I think going back to tour in a few months, now I know what my limit will be. Like I will have more discipline as I go out on the road because I'm like, okay, I have a goal in mind. I want to end up like buying a place. These are the things that I can spend money on, and the rest, that's just luxury. Like I don't really need it. So
Right. Not right
yeah,
now. Not right now.
yeah,
You don't need it right now, but once you hit your goals and the money's still coming in, great. You can do all the luxury you want.
exactly.
But that's such a great point. I think that that what you're the way that you think about it is like, oh, but what are people going to think if they see me move back in with my mom and dad after living out by myself in San Francisco and and the life that I
Right.
had? Like, how
I mean,
can I?
one of the most expensive city, if not the most expensive city in the US. Yeah.
Honey, they really trying to come for, they're trying to come for New York City's crown, honey. They're trying to
Okay.
come for it with these prices out in San Francisco. It's nuts. But and that's part of it too. It's like you as an artist, you go to these cities that are not cheap. I mean, these are high cost of living cities, and this is where there's thriving arts communities. And of course, there's some
Mhm.
smaller ones and bubbles here or there, but that's primarily where like the big Broadway shows are, and where all the big opportunities are for being cast in things. And so that's even more of a thing, because now you're not in a cute little town or city somewhere. You're in New York City, you're in Los Angeles, you're in San Francisco, like, and so it really accumulates even more the pressure, and also the way that you have to spend in order to maintain your lifestyle. But I love the fact that you were like, I had to like go seek logic, like go to a place
Yeah.
of like reasonability. Like, who am I getting a place in Tampa near my mom when I can literally go to her place? She's offering me free stay in my house where I'm going to go there and use all the money that I would be throwing away to give another landlord, give it to myself so that I can become a landlord. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
if we think like that, right? It's those that is I guess it's like a shift in your mentality, because I definitely when I was in my mid-20s, girl, I would have went and got a little place in Tampa. But being 30, I think being in a different place in your life where you really do clearly see yourself building your future, it's easier to make little sacrifices like that, which probably didn't, honestly, girl, it probably didn't even feel like a sacrifice. You love your mama and you hadn't
Oh
seen her,
yeah.
you were traveling, like it was probably nice to be home for a
Oh,
little while too.
absolutely. Yeah. It really was, especially during this time. Yeah, I think we've been each other's anchor during this like crazy hectic time, and just the opportunity to like get to know my parents on a different
Yes.
level rather than just seeing them hi or bye, they come see a show and then they leave, but like just
Yeah.
be with them as an adult, as adults. It's yeah, it's been a really beautiful experience.
Oh, I love that. That makes me so jealous, because my parents are like, it's a very different thing when, I mean, your parents are Jamaican, right? So
Yeah, so
you,
my dad's Jamaican and my mom's from the British Virgin Islands.
okay, so you see, you have like all of that Caribbean influence. For me, imagine like my parents, they never in their heads, they never left Dominican Republic. So even though they live in New York City, they don't
Mhm.
act like it. They didn't really learn English. They never really fully, like, they're kind of, in the New York lifestyle, in the New York City
Yeah.
lifestyle. But it's when like as an adult, if I try to build a relationship with them, it's so hard. Like we have a very like traditional like father daughter mother daughter. It's not like a real like I don't feel like I have a friendship bond with my parents. I feel like I have like I'm their daughter and I have to do these things to make sure they're good, and kind of like how you see like a teacher. It's like it feels like a professional relationship. And I'm so jealous of my friends when they tell me that they have these beautiful friendship bonds with their parents, and they finally got to that place where their parents see them as like another adult and not like their baby. I mean, they're always going to see you as their baby.
Right, exactly. Because my mom's like, at night, where are you? Call me when you get home. Always. That will never end.
Yes, I don't think that's going anywhere, girl. People listening, just call your mama, okay? Call your mamas. Well, I really wanted to talk about finding support though, because I do feel like when you jump into a space like that, you almost kind of have to create your own way to transition and to figure it out, literally figure it out on your own. Is there any resource for people like if they're listening out there and they're like, yo, this is like my story, like I'm like Tiff, I'm creative, I'm an artist, I'm a performer or a visual artist, and I want to make this my profession. I want to be able to make a living from this, but I always thought like it wouldn't be possible because I wouldn't make money or I wouldn't find opportunities. There are opportunities, there are ways to make money. Of course, it's not like everybody's going to do it, but once you do kind of transition over, there's all these aspects to succeeding in the space: legal contracts, salary, packet, negotiating the pay, like all these different things. Is there like a transitional support system, or like do they pair you up with a mentor or somebody who is also in this space? Because I feel like there's a lot of things that you have to kind of figure out, right? Especially if you're on the road. Like if you're on the road, like you're budgeting on the road, that's so hard. Is there like they put you aside and do a little training, life 101 or financial training or anything like that? Or is it straight up like, okay, you're cast and it's just it's type of like a regular job offer. Like you need to figure this all out and just show up to rehearsals and show up to work. And the other stuff is like on you. Is that more so the culture in the arts than I would think?
Yeah, so I would say that for the most part, it's like, all right, we've given you this contract, you go over it with your agent, they negotiate certain things, and then you decide whether or not you want to take it and then move forward from there. However, with the union, I'm a part of Actors Equity Association. They do have a lot of resources and seminars about like how to understand your contract and the different stipulations within a contract. Also, financial tips. They have accountants associated with Actors Equity that some of my cast members use to like file their taxes and like do all of that. Thankfully, my mom is my accountant, so
That's
she
amazing.
helps me a lot with like money management and budgeting and things like that. I'm not where I need to be, but I think she spoils me because she does my taxes for me. But also, the Actors Fund also has a lot of seminars and workshops for building financial knowledge. I actually received a scholarship from the Actors Fund for school because they had a scholarship for dancers that are returning to school to pursue something. And I just had to show like 7 years of performance experience.
Girl, you got that.
Yeah, yeah. Right, I'm up there in age now. But no, yeah, and that was really helpful. It was really, really helpful to know that I have them as a support system as I sought out other educational opportunities during the pandemic. And they also offered a lot of help, like financial help for artists who were struggling financially during this time.
Yeah. That's beautiful. It sounds like two things to me. One is you have to have the right tribe around you. Your agent is so important. It sounds like that agent is negotiating for you. You better have a good agent, the right agent that is a good fit for you. You also are part of a union. That's part of your tribe, that these people are rooting for you and defending you and protecting your rights. I mean, it seems like you really made sure that there's a tribe, there's a team, your people, that you're not doing this solo. You're not going at this alone, just trying to book things on your own and trying to like, make it in the space by yourself. Like that's not how you do it. And I think that applies across the board in any career field and anything, even people now that are like, oh, entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur, I do everything by myself. No, you don't. You don't. You have a support system. There's people that help support you. And if there aren't, you're doing it wrong, because you need your tribe, your support system, and your team to really be there to support you. And amazing that you found a way to tune in and tap into all those resources, because it's not like a formal, okay, everybody, day one of the job, sit around in a circle, we're going to talk to you about your retirement like options. Like, no, but the resources are there. If you go looking for them, they are there. So you kind of mentioned school already, so let's transition over to that. You really, I think, are a beautiful example of the pivot, like the pandemic pivot, as we say. Like, I mean, for us, it's crazy. You said you needed to show them 7 years of experience. And in my head, I'm doing the math like 7. I've been watching Tiff dance since 17 years ago. Like since we was 14, like freshman year. That's crazy. It's crazy. I feel like we so old, girl. We old.
I know, right? But we look good though.
Yes, girl. And it's so funny for me to think about, like, just being 2 girls from the hood, and in your case, like going from the hood, going to Hamilton, and then to Harvard, like, which is that right there. That might just be the title, girl. Hood to Hamilton to Harvard. But
I love it.
Really, like, really making that journey to pave your own path in a way that was gonna make sense for you with where you were in your life. And so it's just, beautiful thing that you ended up making that choice to go to Harvard. What led you to that decision? I mean, it's amazing that you said you got scholarships. There were opportunities that came across that just made it clear, like, this might be right. But I know that must have been a tough decision process. Like, it's a pandemic, people are out here, it's a struggle, and the show is paused for a bit. You don't know what's going to happen. And you're like, yep, I'm going to go out and do my master's at Harvard right now. Like, how did you figure that that's what was right at that time?
All right, going back 10 years ago, when I was graduating from Florida State, I got a certificate in arts and community practice. I was also a dance major. So I had started an after school dance program while at Florida State, and I was really passionate about teaching. Like, I love teaching youth. And I knew at some point that I wanted to return to school to get my master's in either arts administration or arts and education, because I wanted to start an arts and education nonprofit eventually, and also like be like a director of education at like a Lincoln Center or Kennedy Center or something like that, like post-performance career. Not talking about now, because while I still can, I'm gonna be dancing. But yeah, so I was reflecting on that experience, and I was like, all right, so I know I have this set in my heart to do, and I'm sitting here this time last year. All right, what can I do? Oh, maybe I can go back to school. Let me look up different programs. I was looking through programs, and to be honest, some of the faculty at these schools, I was like, it's not giving me the diversity that I need. And I came across Harvard, and I hadn't seen their program before, but they had an arts and education program that fit exactly what I was looking for. Like, you constructed your own schedule pretty much, and you were given 2 advisors. And I looked through the faculty, and I was like, oh wow, look at all these Black women on faculty. Like, get this like diverse faculty. There were Latinx women, there were Asian women, and Black men. And I was just like, oh my God, this is where I need to be. And my mentor was like, this is where you need to be. I'm writing a recommendation. End of story. So I decided then that I wanted to apply for this program. And before that, I was like, okay, why am I applying to Harvard? Like, Tiffany, you really reach it. That's a reach. Okay. Like, what is the acceptance rate at this school? Like,
oh, please. That's that little voice in your head that you gotta,
all that negative self-talk. Like, what makes you think that you'll be able? I was like, wait, what makes me think that I'm not capable? Like,
honey,
look at what I've done. And not to say that in like an arrogant way, but like, I've done the work, and I've been in it for a while, and like, it's something that I'm genuinely passionate about. And if I can convey that in my application, then
why
why not? So yeah, I saw that it was also a year program. So I was like, okay, that's great. I don't think I'm going back to work anytime soon, seeing how
Who the
this
hell knows?
right, seeing how this pandemic is playing out. I'm just gonna, leave it in God's hands and just have faith and move forward in the process. So I submitted my application July 1st of 2020. July 31st, I got my acceptance
Girl,
letter.
that's faster than Hamilton accepted
Okay,
you.
okay. Okay, I was like, okay, Harvard. And funny enough, they had just opened for the first time ever because of the pandemic. They opened up a summer application process for students who would not have been able to attend Harvard
Oh,
otherwise. Like myself, like I was performing full time. I didn't have time to go back to school, nor did I have
wow.
time to go to
When
Cambridge. But because it was virtual, they were like, okay, let's open it up. They also, of course, they want more money, but um,
it's a business. It's a business.
yeah, it's a business at the end of the day, but it allowed so many people who wouldn't have, so many people of color, honestly, because, we can't afford to take time off,
Mm,
unfortunately. So just to see the cohort of amazing individuals, I was just so honored to be a part of that cohort. And just these people were just so passionate. I don't know if it was like the urgency of the pandemic and like everything that was going on politically and socially. I was like, oh my gosh, these people are like change makers, and I need to step up. Like I was inspired every single day by my classmates. And yeah, I started September 2020. I just graduated on May 27th.
yeah.
Yeah, I got my master's. I
Amazing.
took 34 credits. So 7 classes the first semester, and then 5 classes spring
That's
semester.
amazing.
And yeah, it was a lot of work, but it was so, so worth it. Yeah, I feel like it deepened my work as an artist, not only as an like an educator, arts educator, but like as an artist and as a performer. Like I feel like I have like a deeper sense of purpose of why I do what I do. And yeah, I'm really excited to go back um, to
That's amazing.
performing and just having this wealth of knowledge now that I can bring with me. And this, I feel like I've become more mature over
Mm,
the course of the year, just as an individual and just as like someone who has read a lot. Like I had not read this much in God knows how long. Um, but yeah,
girl,
just
that reading be crazy. They'll be like, so for tomorrow, the next 213 pages. I'm sorry,
exactly
213 pages in one
right.
night.
Exactly. But just, and also, I think what made it so special were my classmates, my colleagues
Yes,
really
yes.
made my Harvard experience what it was. And I
That's
would not trade it
amazing.
for anything.
Oh, that's amazing. Shout out to them. I completely agree. Because being in college, it's funny because you grad 2011, just like me. So this is our
Yeah.
10-year college graduation from our bachelor's, right? And
Ooh.
honey, I didn't want to say it, but it's the truth,
It
what I
is.
have.
Yes.
So every time, like I was looking online and I'm like so sad because usually, at Brown, you go back like every year if you can, because there's this like
Mhm.
big procession and everything. But especially you try to go back 5 year, 10 year, those big ones. But so for 10 year, of course, because of COVID, they canceled the
Right.
10 year. And so they're going to do like a joint one next year for like 3 classes that haven't had a chance to do their in person. But it's just funny because every time, even before like COVID, I would go back every now and then to speak at Brown or to just to visit. And it never felt the same. Like it's amazing to be back. And I definitely get the like butterflies in my stomach. Like I remember living here, being here, walking around, going there, eating there and stuff. But for some reason, there's always a little void, like something missing. And it's exactly what you said. It's because the people, my classmates, the people that I experienced being there with were not there. Like if I go back and visit now, it's totally different people there.
Right.
It's not the years I was there, the people that I was there with. So the people really made it for me. And I absolutely I couldn't agree more. Like when you're in a space and you're doing an experience and you have a connection with the people there,
Yeah.
without them, it's a completely different experience because they're the ones that created the human connection is what makes that experience so special and so inspiring for you, it's such a developmental phase of like your growth, your professional growth, but also your personal development that you've talked about, being more
Absolutely.
mature and thinking about things differently because of that experience. So that's incredible. So I mean, shout out to your cohort, and also just shout out to
Yeah.
you for that determination to say, yeah, I had that little voice in my head that said, who the heck you think you are going to Harvard? But you know what? Flick her little tiny cell out of your head,
Yes.
flick her out, and focus on, you know, the bigger goals and the things that you know you can achieve because of your determination, your passion. You are capable. You're fully capable. Who else is more capable? Please tell me. Who else was in here doing all the work? Who else was out here performing, doing the mentorship, working with the kids? Like, it's everything that you would need to be able to hone in on that and make it your craft. You have. So why not? Why not?
Right. Why not?
That's amazing. And so now you're going back. You're going back August. You said August 10th. It's Hamilton's picking back up in San Francisco. And I
Yes.
feel like the pandemic really made people just like, I mean, and especially artists, like it really hurt because a lot of artists really depend on an audience or, you know, being live, whether that's in a theater, whether that's in a concert hall, whether that, you know, whatever that looks like. But that live audience is those tickets. I mean, that's the livelihood for a lot of these artists, and even the people who support the artists, the tech people. You know how it is at LaGuardia. Everybody
Yeah.
at the end of every show, you stand up and you give your hand to tech, because without the
Right.
techies, the show doesn't, you know, happen. So all the people involved in putting a production together. Now it's like, do you think, I'm curious what you think, because you're in the space and you're heading back. Do you think it's going to be like a bounce back, or do you feel like it's never really going to be the same, and artists might even have like a harder time now post pandemic because of the shift in the way that things are going to be post pandemic?
So I am pretty optimistic about the return to Broadway. I think for various reasons. One, because audiences are so eager to return, and I think because a lot of people have been vaccinated, they feel more comfortable.
Right.
Therefore, they're going to go. A lot of people have them, like, surprisingly have the money to go back.
Which would be
I feel like
surprisingly, girl.
the
They had none. They had no choice but to save them stimulus checks, girl. They couldn't go out.
right, like the wealthy, like they became more wealthy. Like they were
Yes.
chilling, so they bought tickets just like that. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm. Mm.
uh, yeah, I don't feel nervous about the return to Broadway, like shows reopening. I feel like there's been a really meticulous process with safety protocol.
Right.
So I know, like, Hamilton has its own operations. I'm sure each show has their own operation. Theaters have been renovated, and they've installed systems for air filtration, to make sure that nobody's like consuming anything. Also, like with the mask requirements and things like that while
Yep.
in the theater, is really important. But I think during this time, shows have been taking very necessary steps to ensure that everybody is healthy and safe.
Mhm.
Um, what I'm also excited about on like a more like social level is just um, the the raising consciousness about different issues about racism within the arts community, specifically
Yes.
on Broadway, and how are we tackling that, even from like behind the scenes. So like the representation or lack thereof of musicians and tech people and
Mhm.
casting and the creative teams like choreographers,
Yes.
directors, et cetera, and making sure that their voices are on those stages,
Yes.
and making sure that the artists who they're hiring represent whatever story, like, in a fair and equitable way.
That's right.
So
And
yeah, go ahead.
no, I was going to say all the way up too, because you can
Yeah.
have all of the people of color on the stage using their physical bodies, working them. And then the people that are doing all the direction, the people at the very top, like we need to make sure it goes all the way up to, because the visibility of you on stage is a beautiful, the representation is so important and beautiful. To have a young Black girl go on Broadway and see you, Tiff, on that stage, like that is, it just gives you
Yeah.
chills. You know, there were
Right.
no Black women on the stage. Like they were so rare to see. And so now to have a cast that's almost all people of color is incredible, but also we need to go all the way up. I mean, Lynn is an example of that, but really thinking about all the way up to leadership and to the creative directors and the directors, executives, all those levels need to also be just as diverse as the cast. So I think that's a great point, that point that you just made.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I know Hamilton has been doing a really great job of creating like a pipeline. So, for instance, with students that are interested in like stage management, company management, and tech, they have this program now where if you are a student, a person of color, and you want to get into these programs, they offer you scholarships and they have training programs for you. They've also giving scholarships for students who may not have the finances to go to school. So they're really doing the work. And I can proudly say that I'm a part of a company that is really like putting their money where their mouth is in terms of creating a pipeline for students of color and just creating more access, because that's what we need. Because, like you said, it starts at the top. And if the people at the top are doing what they need to do, then you'll see the results.
Mm-hmm. That is so true. It really is that way. I am so happy that I got you on the show, Tiff. Your story is
Thank
amazing.
you. Thank
And
you.
it's like I can just sense it, this wisdom that you have that you are now going to take with you moving forward from your experience at Harvard, from your experience being in Hamilton and now returning back, and just the shift that you made in your life and taking advantage of that pivot is so incredible. Shifting your money mindset, coming at this right, thinking about building wealth instead of just spending, is just all those things at once. It's like the new Tiff 2.0. I love it.
Yes,
I love it. Well, let people know if they loved your story, if they want to follow you and support all the work that you're doing in Hamilton and beyond. Where can they find you? Is it TikTok, Instagram? I don't even be knowing where people be. I follow you on Instagram, but just so
yeah.
that
I
folks
don't
know.
have a TikTok because I would
Girl,
just,
me neither.
I'd be so consumed on it. I like
For the
it's
dancers, TikTok is like a
oh
drug,
yeah,
bro.
right.
Yes.
All little dances.
Yes. And they're
But
so
yeah,
cute too.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. My handle is at Tiffany N Millard. Um, yeah, so you can follow me on there.
Awesome.
See
I'm gonna
all the
link
things I'm
that.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to link that below. Tiff is an amazing person to follow just because it's such a variety of stuff that you share. Sometimes you'll go into rants. Sometimes you'll just post up what you're up to. Sometimes it'll just be like, work stuff, personal stuff, workout, yoga. Like it's just a variety of, it's like a day in your life. And I love that, just to be able to get, to tune into what is life really like for somebody who made their passion their profession. So I love it. I love following you.
Thank you.
All right, girl. So I always wrap up the show with a mantra. It could be a money mantra, since we talked about money themes today, but it could also be a general mantra. And then I'll put your face on a dollar bill with the mantra above you, so that it's that this idea that like every time we're transacting, we think about this mantra to help us make our decisions with money in life, so that we're really thinking carefully instead of just like blah, blah, willy-nilly with our decisions. So what would your mantra be?
I thought of my high school yearbook quote, which is from Jay-Z. And I don't, I guess you could tie it to money and finances in a way. But the mantra that I use is difficult takes a day, impossible takes a week.
I
Yeah,
love that.
it's from the song Diamonds from Sierra Leone by Kanye West. But yeah,
I
that is
love
like
that.
yeah, something that's difficult takes a day, something that is impossible,
Quote unquote.
yeah, exactly, it takes a week.
I love that. That's amazing. That is just like that's perfect for what you that's perfect for what you talked about. It's like in my head, I was like, who's telling me who made me think I could go to Harvard? And then
Right.
literally 2 weeks later, you get your 3 weeks later, you turn the impossible into something that you like. That's like the perfect quote, I think, for your story and for this overarching theme of you really going out there and overcoming adversity and creating this life that you want, which I mean, I just think it's beautiful. I can't wait to come to your housewarming when you finally buy your house and you
Yes,
invite
come
me over.
through, come through.
Yes. I love it. It's going to be so amazing to see you go full circle after us having this conversation. So thank you so much for making time for this. I love your story, your
Thank
journey. Love you,
you. Love you
support you in
too,
everything you
Yaneli.
do.
Thank
Of
you
course,
so
boo.
much.
Of course. Have a good weekend.
Bye, you too.
If you like this video, which I'm sure you did because the video was the bomb, then you're gonna wanna watch all the other episodes of the Mind Your Money with Miss Be Helpful podcast, and they're all right here in this playlist. So click the playlist to watch those episodes. And if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. Click the subscribe button right now so you can get videos every single week and to join Team Be Helpful right here. That's all I have for you guys. Till next time, peace.